Hi everyone, welcome to the Screw the System channel. Today is the first in a series of new interviews called Pursue Your Passion. And with me here, all the way from France, I have my author friend, Thibaut Meurisse. Now, he is here to be interviewed about his journey from working as a business consultant in a corporation in Japan to being now a full-time author who has sold, I think, 15,000 books and has been featured on the Amazon bestsellers list. Now his books, I think he has 9 out in total, and there's a range of titles from goal setting to the one goal to master your emotions, the thriving introvert. I can't remember all of his titles because he's got so many out. He's a very quick writer as well. We're going to delve a bit deeper into that in the second part of the interview. And he's going to give you some productivity tips and writing tips as well. But for now, we're really interested in his journey. What led him to change the path and direction of his life, to go from a job he was bored and frustrated with to pursuing his passion and doing it successfully. So, first question, Thibaut. Before we ask you any questions, let's give the viewers a bit of an insight into what you were doing when you were working as a business consultant in Japan. And I think you mentioned you were a translator. You were translating from French to Japanese, worked as 4 years as a translator, yes. Then as a business consultant.
Yes.
I'm telling his story for him, so I'm going to turn it over to him. Let him tell you guys a bit about what he was doing and what really sort of frustrated you about the corporate world and why you felt you had to get out.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a brief overview of what I did in my career. So my first job was, I went to Japan. I worked for a prefectural office for 4 years. I did translation, interpreting, events, seminars, that kind of things for 4 years. And the job was okay, but I wasn't really, something was missing. My friends were happy about the job. I was like, I'm not sure about that. But I didn't say anything. I pretend it was okay. Then after 4 years, I decided I wanted to move to do something else. So at the time, one of my friends was doing an MBA in Japan, a French guy like me, a friend of mine. So I thought it would be a good idea for me to learn about business, because I was doing more of interpreting and translation, so it's very different from the private sector, from business. So I decided to do an MBA in Japan. Also, I realized that because it was a famous university in Japan, I would be able to work in Japan and find a job, hopefully easily.
Yeah.
So I joined an MBA for 2 years. Then I didn't know what to do exactly, so I decided to do consulting. Why? It's because I could work on different projects with different companies in different industries. So I was hoping that I would find out something that I love in one industry, one thing I want to do as a career. But what happened is that at the same time I started doing personal development in 2013, 2014. And I started back before the MBA because I bought a book called The Personal MBA. And there was a list of books inside the book. One was an audiobook from Jim Rohn. I think it was The Art of Exceptional Living. One was an audiobook by Earl Nightingale.
So would you say that was your first introduction to personal development,
yes.
the Jim Rohn book?
Yes, audiobook, yeah.
Audiobook, okay.
And
so his first one was Jim Rohn's audiobook. Mine was, properly The Power of Your Subconscious Mind from Joseph Murphy. So we've both been introduced to the world of personal development through specific books. Sorry, keep going with this story.
So what I did, I listened to the audiobook again and again, I don't know how many times, maybe 50 times, 100 times. And I started my journey. And back in 2014, I started a blog called whatispersonaldevelopment.org. And I was inspired by some YouTubers and also bloggers. I realized they're making money out of their passion. So I realized if they can do it, I can do it. So it's a belief. I like that belief. I think you are the same. If someone else can do something, there's no reason why I couldn't do it as well. So I got started. And it was in 2014. I was still an MBA student and I had to find a job. So I did consulting.
Yeah.
But my passion was really about writing about personal development at the time, psychology. I had started my blog. I had released my first book just in 2015. I think it's August. So just before my job as a consultant.
And let me interrupt you there, because that's actually when we first got in touch. believe it or not, this is the first time we've met properly face to face. However, Thibaut and I have been friends for I think 3 years now, since 2015, and the release of Goal Setting. Because I think he got in touch with me. He did a review for my book, Escape the System. I did a review for his book, Goal Setting. There was a mutual enjoyment of each other's work, and we've been friends ever since, sort of sharing tips on writing and how to grow our audience and things like that. So that's sort of when we got in contact with each other. So we've gone to 2015, but let's sort of fast forward now to 2017. I think was the time you decided to take the big step to quitting your job. And before that, Thibaut was working like a beast, and he would message me and tell me he was doing 40 plus hours a week as a consultant, and then I think over 20 hours a week building his blog, writing his books, and I just couldn't believe how he did it. And he's going to share a few productivity tips with us in a moment. But before we do that, I want to ask you, Thibaut, what was it that pushed you over the edge in 2017 that made you say, right, I'm going to quit my full-time job? Because I'm sure there are many of you watching this right now feeling like you want to quit your job, but you don't feel ready, you don't feel prepared, and you feel that it's a risk. So my question to you, Thibaut, is how did you take what seems like such a big risk to so many people, yet do it and be successful doing it?
So one thing is, at the time I already had some books on Amazon. I got great feedback on some of my books. So I realized that there was a potential for me to make a living out of my writing. So I was confident that if I keep persevering, in 2 to 3 years I would be able to make some money out of my writing. And at the same time, so I didn't enjoy my job, as I mentioned many times on Facebook. I wasn't very good at it, to be honest. I didn't want to improve because I wasn't motivated, so I couldn't really improve. It was very frustrating because I was always thinking, I should be somewhere else. I should be writing books. I should be creating my business. What am I wasting my time here? Why I know what I want to do with my life. I don't need anybody to tell me what to do because I know what I want to do. So that's something I realized for myself. So I think it was in 2017, maybe 16, end of 16, I realized I'm going to quit my job, maybe in 6 months. So I gave myself a few months to think about it. And I was also working on a project, so I couldn't really leave the project before the end as a consultant. And you mentioned a risk. So for me, it wasn't a risk because first, I hated my job. I knew what I wanted to do with my life, my career. So for me, it was a risk not to quit my job because of the pain, the emotional pain I had every day, and the risk of staying at the same job or as an employee for the rest of my life. I just couldn't see that happens. That's really when I realized that I have to work on my own, be self-employed, based on my own personality, and I like to be in control of my life, taking my own decision and creating my own destiny. So I think maybe it's nothing personal, but it's how I felt. So I had to leave my job.
So there's 2 insights I've got from Thibaut there, guys. One, he'd actually put his business in place before he'd quit his job. He'd seen some sales, he'd got feedback from people who were reading his book, he'd got reviews. So it wasn't a complete leap into the dark. He tested the water, basically. He found out that there was a market. Okay, he was far from making a full-time living doing it. So there was some element of risk, but he was slightly prepared. So that might be something you want to consider. Second thing he mentions is that he doesn't consider it a risk. Something that so many people find so scary, to leave a job that they hate and pursue their passion. He didn't really think it was a risk. He looked at the other side and thought, what's going to happen if I don't do this? You know, decades more of staying in a job you don't enjoy, losing your vitality, losing all the opportunities you have to create the life you want. So that's some great insights there from Thibaut. So it's an interesting journey. I admire Thibaut for doing that. I've taken a slightly different journey, which I'll probably go into in another video. But what I want to know from him is probably 3 life lessons you've learned from being working in the corporate world, to making that big decisions, to now actually being able to earn a living from your passion.
Okay. The first one is, you're never going to be ready to do anything in life. And I mentioned I quit my job was one thing, but then I had to I wasn't ready to write a book. I wasn't ready to do interviews or to do YouTube videos. One time, someone contacted me to do coaching. So I wasn't ready to do coaching, but I said yes, and I got started. So I really realized that you have to get started. It's the only way you can succeed. So you have to go beyond your comfort zone. That's really the only way you're gonna become more and achieve more in your life. Or you're gonna get stuck at the same level, doing the same thing every day for the rest of your life. So that's the first insight. You have to get started. And you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to know how you're going to achieve your goals. You just have to have a vision and to get started on your vision. So that's the first point. The second point is you want to be able to trust yourself. So to be more intuitive, to have an intuition regarding what you want to do. Because for me, I had this big vision, and I thought, am I deluded? I think maybe you have the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Am I deluded? Is it my ego? Or is it because I really have something to contribute? It's my mission or my life purpose or my destiny. And I didn't know at the time, and I still don't know, but I realized that the only way to find the answer is to get started, to start a journey, and one step at a time. So even if you have a job now, just you get started every day, do a little bit of work on what you want to do. So that was, so trusting yourself.
Can I just quickly there? He makes a good point about feeling deluded, and I had exactly the same experience when I was writing my first book, and I had no audience at all. You kind of question yourself and wonder, I've got these crazy plans and dreams in my head. Am I crazy? You know, or because society would say yes. You know, don't dream, don't take the leap, don't follow the ideas you have. Because you might fail and nobody's going to be interested to them. So if you're feeling that way watching this, I think from what Thibaut's saying, what I'm saying is it's perfectly normal to feel that way. But what you end up doing, as both of us are saying, is you prove to yourself that you're not deluded. You find your audience, you make some sales. Even if it's just one or two, you start to realize, hey, actually, I might have a good idea. So I just wanted to come in with that point. But now finally we're going to hear Thibaut's third life lesson.
I want to talk about the second point a little bit more.
Oh, sorry.
So you have to trust yourself and you have to believe in yourself. And I know in my life, when I decided to quit my job, many people around me, they didn't believe in me. I knew that, I could sense that. They didn't tell me, but I could sense that. And in fact, I think it was about a week or maybe 2 weeks ago on Facebook, one of my friends, a good friend of mine, the French guy, he did the MBA I mentioned before. He said to me, so I said to him, okay, I did this amount of sales in book sales with month, it's pretty good amount, getting some success, some traction. And he said, it's good because many people who doubted you in Japan, my friend in Japan, the French, maybe French people, Japanese people, I don't know who they are exactly, but they start shutting up their mouth, You know that, okay, he's getting some results, so he's serious about it, he's committed. And the same for you. Maybe you have this crazy vision, nobody believes in you, your friends, your family, they doubt you, but only you know if you can do it or not. Only you know if you have a vision that you want to go after. And nobody's going to tell you to do it. Nobody told me to quit my job, to create a business, to write books, to make, interviews. Nobody told me to do that. Only me, I decided that it's what I want to do, and it's going to happen, regardless of what people say I cannot do. So that's the point on trusting yourself and believing in yourself is very important.
That's good.
And what was the last point? Maybe remember the third point.
The third life lesson. I think we had trusting yourself, believing yourself, get started.
That's connected. That's you want to be committed to your goal. You can't just be interested in trying something. Once you have a vision, you have to commit, and you have to commit to it for 2, 3, or 5 years. Because you have to understand that it takes time to achieve your goals. And any valuable goals in life takes a lot of time and effort. So you have to be committed, and you have to believe in yourself and be committed and never give up. So I know it sounds maybe cliche, but you have to be committed. There's no way out. You have to decide for yourself. It's going to happen. I
think from what I've seen from Thibaut is that he, as I said, we follow very different paths. He's worked in corporate world and done his passion on the side, then quit his job in the corporate world and just worked on his passion. I've seen the results he's got since he's had that commitment. And I'm a little jealous because I sort of balance my work, and I have done for a while, well, I've never worked in the corporate environment and never had a 9 to 5. I also do a bit of tennis coaching and hypnotherapy. So I don't have the time that Thibaut now has. You know, the power and momentum that he can build from that commitment, from just doing one thing. So I've learned a lesson from him in that respect. It makes me want to move more and more in that direction. So we've had Thibaut's 3 life lessons that he's learned along his journey. And now we're going to take a very small break, and we're going to be back with part 2, where we discuss his books and some of the things he's learned from them. So keep watching. So welcome back, guys. This is part 2 of my Pursue Your Passion interview with Thibaut Meurisse here. Part 1, we talked about his journey, and now in part 2 we're going to talk a little bit about his books and writing tips. For any of you out there, I know that almost everybody says they feel they have a book in them and they want to get it out. Well, if that's the case, it'd be great if you listen to some of Thibaut's insights, because he's not only written 1 book, I think he's written 9 books, and he writes them incredibly quickly. We're going to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about actually the differences in our writing approaches and writing philosophies, because I've only just released my 2nd, he's on his 9th, so we'll talk about why that is a little bit further along in the interview. For now, I really want to know, Thibaut, what your writing philosophy is, and a bit about how you're able to produce so much content so quickly.
Okay, so when I got started with writing books on personal development, I realized that I wasn't an expert. I didn't have 20 or 30 years of experience. I wasn't, if you know Brian Tracy or Tony Robbins,
Yeah.
Jack Canfield, all these big guys. But what I could do is could talk about my own personal experience as I'm improving on my journey toward becoming better. And I thought it would be interesting for people to have someone who kind of document his journey. So my journey toward becoming better, toward achieving my goals. So that's what in my first book on goal setting I talked about. So this one, I talked about how I want to become great, maybe one of the best in the world, a personal development expert. So, and then from that I keep writing more books, keep learning about different things like daily habits, morning ritual, goal setting, mastering your emotions, creating an incredible mindset to succeed. And
So
that's what I did.
So each time you're writing a book, you're in a way assimilating that information and applying it to it's your own growth while you're writing the book. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So, as I mentioned before in the first part of the interview, is getting started before I'm actually 100% ready to write about something. So I have to learn while I'm doing something, which is a way to go faster and to put pressure on myself to perform better and to move forward.
I see. And is that what helps you write so rapidly? I want to talk a little bit about how you're able to. I think this year you've released 3 or 4 books already?
So this year I have 3 books out, and I have 3 more books ready to
3
out
books
in the future.
So that's a lot of work, guys. Some of you maybe have done a bit of writing and aware of what goes into writing and producing a book. So if he's done 3 already, and we're doing this interview in July, that gives you some idea of the speed at which he works. So how are you able to do that?
Okay. So one thing is I try to have an interest in the topic, obviously. So I look at different topics, I think about them, and when I have some kind of excitement for a topic, I say, okay, this time I'm going to write about this topic because I have some excitement about it. And then I'm going to do some more research. So buy some more books, do some more research, and I'm going to create an outline for the book. And I'm using a mind map, so I'm going to have the topic in the middle. I'm going to have some ideas for chapters, then smaller ideas within these chapters. So it can be very quick.
So you do a fair bit of planning for each book.
So so planning, and then.
Do you set yourself like a word limit per day, or do you say I've got to get a certain amount completed after a week?
So first I have a deadline for the whole book. So I want to say, okay, I'm giving myself, 8 weeks or 6 weeks, 8 weeks to finish a book and send it to my editor. And then from that I try it every day. I write every day, or most of the days I'm writing. So I don't have a number of words now. I'm just more like trying to spend at least 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day writing. And sometimes it's 2,000 words, 3,000, sometimes it's 500. But I just have this deadline I have that I want to do my best to meet. And that's what motivates me to stick to my schedule.
It's interesting. It's really, his approach is completely the opposite to mine.
Yeah.
As I said, I've completed 2 books in my time as a writer, and I think I've been writing longer than Thibaut. In my defense, I think my books are usually longer than his.
Sure.
My first one is 75,000
Yes.
words. How to create an income without working a boring job, which I've just released in the last 3 weeks, and I'll put some links below for that, guys, if you want to check it out, is 55,000 words. So my books tend to be longer. I think you're writing more in the 20 to 40,000.
My first book was like 20,000.
Yeah.
Now I'm like more like 30 to 40, sometimes over 40,000 words, which I think is a good, fair amount of words.
Yeah.
I think it's enough for me.
So it's that sort of difference in the length of words, but I still think his philosophy is very different in the sense that he doesn't feel it has to be perfect first time. He grows as he writes. Whereas when I was writing Escape the System, I had this crazy philosophy that this had to be the one and only book I was going to write, that this was going to sell 1 million copies, and that was all I could live off the royalties for the rest of my life. I've discovered I was pretty naive in assuming that, but I very much have a philosophy that I try to make it as perfect as possible the first time. But I'm saying to you guys, if you're starting out in writing, it's probably better to follow his philosophy because you can grow. And I tell you what, instead of trying to write a huge book, first of all, why not try with some blog posts first? You know, write some 1,000 word blog posts, 1,500 words.
Yes.
Get started and build up and build up. By all means, if you want to, follow my approach, but I look back on my own path and think maybe I should have done it more like he did it. So we talked a bit about that. Finally, we also mentioned productivity tips, which we didn't really talk about in part 1, but it's sort of linked to your writing. So I was wondering if you could give the viewers a few tips on, especially when you're in the situation of working in a full-time job and still wanting to spend some time working on your passion. What a few productivity tips for those wanting to do something similar.
One thing I would say is always try to work on your most important task first thing in the morning. So if it's writing, you want to write every morning. And I also used to write at lunchtime, so I would find 45 minutes trying to write something.
Oh, so while you were at your job?
Yeah, I have a job.
Yeah, cool.
And
so
also
you're working before you get to the job, working for 45 minutes lunch,
And after work in the weekend. And one thing you can do if you want to go to a party, for instance, I used to do that thing is, instead of going for 4 or 5 hours, if you go to a picnic for an entire day, I would just go for 2 hours. So I would arrive late, I will leave early, so I will have a little bit of good time, and for me it's enough, and I just go home and I can keep working or work before going to the events. So, and also learn to say no to anything that is not aligned with your vision and what you want to create, so your passion. Try to say no more often. That's what I would say.
I think those are great tips. So he was the guy who always turned up last and left first at the party, but he makes a good point. He's sort of saying you don't have to give up all the stuff you like doing. You've just got to, instead of spending a whole day of it, just a couple of hours. And I think those are really, really good productivity tips, especially doing some work before you go to your day job, because then I guess your mind is at its freshest. So you've clearly written a lot of books, Thibaut, clearly done a lot of research as well. So what I'm fascinated to know, and I think viewers watching this will also want to know, is across all of the books you've written, what are probably the 3 most powerful lessons or insights from your particular books?
Okay. Number 1 is setting goals, which is my first book, goal setting. So if you were to come to me and ask me, what can I do to change my life? I would ask you, what do you want? What do you want in your life? Because most people do not know what they want. They don't have goals. They don't have a plan for the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. So they're just going to their job every day. They don't know what they want to do. So it's easy to get influenced by your boss, by your friends, by your family, if you don't know what you want. So you really want to reclaim your power by having goals, but your goals, but what you really want. And you want to spend the time to write them down on a piece of paper. What do I want to do? What do I want? What is important? And write them down, spending a few hours, even a weekend, just spending time thinking about what you want.
So what do you say though to the people who say that goals constrain you? I don't set goals for my life because they just narrow down my focus on what I can do, you know, and there might be some bigger vision I could explore. What's your answer to that?
So you mentioned you might have if you have a bigger vision, for instance, a goal is only a way to get you there. So a short-term goal should be a way to get you to your vision. So if what you do today is not in line with where you want to be in 10 years, you want to have to ask yourself, what am I doing right now? And one of my favorite questions is, if I keep doing what I'm doing today, will I end up where I want to be in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years? That's a way to ask myself, am I doing the right thing right now? And so goals, I mean, it can constrain you if you're not flexible enough. But if you have an overall vision for your life, then you can always find different ways to achieve your long-term goals. If you want to be a writer, maybe you can be a freelancer. You can do like me. You can edit. You can publish on Amazon. You can find a publisher. You can do a freelancing. But there's many ways to achieve a certain goal. So you always have some flexibility. And also, you want to get into the habit of achieving goals. You want to have the discipline.
Yeah.
I think discipline is important because people think they want to be free. They want to do whatever they want to do, whatever, anytime, anywhere, have the freedom. But it doesn't work like that unless you have the discipline to achieve your goals. You need to have the discipline so that you have control over your emotions, so you can avoid procrastination and achieve your goals, and have control over your body, over your thoughts. And unless you do that, you cannot have freedom in your life.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm a big believer in goals and setting them as well. And I think rather than constraining you, they give you freedom because they force you to discipline yourself and to achieve things which create greater freedom in your life. And you don't have freedom if you're a slave to your weaker parts of your mind that just want to spend hours watching TV. That's not freedom, really. The only route to freedom, I believe, is through discipline. So I totally agree. So your second major learning from one of your books?
Okay. Second one is you want to know who you are. I know it's know thyself thing, but it's very important. So that means knowing your personality, if you're an introvert, if you're an extrovert, and what does that mean for your career, for instance? If you want to work in a group, be self-employed, work in a team, all these things you want to be clear about. You want to know that. You want to know your values as well. Do you want freedom? Do you want to contribute to the world in some way? Do you want a connection? Do you want to be part of a team? So you want to know your top values, and then based on your values, you're going to be able to set goals. So that's, you mentioned, goals are not here to constrain you. They're here to help you live by your values, which are the most important things to you.
So that's like the foundation. Knowing who you are is the foundation.
Who you are, your values, and then based on your values, for me, I know I want to have freedom in my life. So everything I do is based on my desire to create more freedom in my life. So I can take decisions based on my values. It's easier for me.
Right. And which book is that one from? Is that Upgrade Yourself, I think?
Talk about this in Upgrade Yourself. And also in goal setting, when I talk about the importance of knowing your values and setting goals based on your values as well.
Okay. So the final insight from one of your books
is you want to be consistent. So as I mentioned before, you can ask yourself, if I keep doing what I'm doing today, will I end up where I want to be 10 years from today or not? And you have to understand that success is a process. So you can't meditate for a year and say, okay, I'm done with meditation, I mastered the craft, and stop meditating. If you want to get the benefit from meditation every day. You can't have a goal of finding the right spouse, partner for you, then you get married and do nothing about it now. You just say, okay, I achieved my goal, I'm done. You have to keep working on your relationship every day. You have to nurture your relationship. The same thing is a business. You can have a successful business and then you say, okay, I'm successful, I'm done, I don't do anything to grow my business. You have to be growing all the time. So success is what you do every day, is consistency. It's who you are, not what you achieve. Success.
That sounds like it would be from the one goal, being consistent on one thing. Is that what you write about in that book?
There's one part on understanding the process of success, which is being consistent, working on the right thing, and having the right mindset to achieve your goal. So it's part of it.
Part of it. I like this idea. He's talking about success as a process. I think everybody must understand that. Society kind of teaches you that success is luck. It just happens somehow miraculously. Whereas what Thibaut's saying, and which I'm sure he explores deeper in his book, is that it's a process. There is a reason why people are successful. It doesn't just happen to them. And because there's a process, it means it's something you can learn. It's something you can learn watching this right now. Don't ever believe that success comes as a result of luck or some amazing talent you're born with at birth. You can develop and work on it. So thank you, Thibaut, for those great insights and for the whole interview. It's really good way to start this series off. Before we go, just tell the readers where they can buy your books. I think Amazon is the best place.
Okay, yeah, so you can go on Amazon and write my name if you can. Maybe you can put it in the link or my name below the video, and you will find my books. Or you can visit my website, whatispersonaldevelopment.org, and you can get my free book. It will be on my list, so I will be able to contact you and give you my discount on my new books and information and tips on personal development.
That sounds great. And also, he's going to plug his books. I'm going to plug my book. You can get Escape the System, my first book, and now you can get my second book. I don't have a paperback version yet, but you can get it for your Kindle and in a PDF format. That's how to create an income without working a boring job. I will also put links for that down below. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for more interviews and more videos I've got coming up pretty soon as well. And I will see you in the next one.